There we go.
Okay, cool.
The second one, it was just a little. It was like off.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
All right. You ready to get going? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the best betting show on YouTube. Now, I know we didn't post a video last week. Realistically, it was because we were just both super busy. I know you were in Minnesota watching your 49ers, lose to the Vikings, which was shocking. But, I think after the terrible Week 7 we had, we need a bye week, right? We did need a bye week. Every team gets a bye week, so that was our bye week. But we're back. We did make our picks for last week. We texted each other both the picks before the game started, so the graph is updated. It's good to go with our actual picks. I bounced back having a really good week in Week 8. Matt, you actually had a pretty good week as well, right? I mean, you did pretty good.
Yeah, I did. I did pretty good as well. I mean, but it was good because the week before we each lost $600, and it was like, oh wow, now we're deep in the red right here. But I bounced back. I won a little over 400. Mike, you almost went perfect. You won 900, and you had some underdogs in there as well. I mean, the big one for you is the Bengals, but I mean, Mike, you're killing me right now. I have decent profit. I have over $600 profit, but you're almost at 2,500. So it's not even close right now. I'm gonna need like a big comeback this week, and last week I had a good week, but then you just went off as well. So I feel like lately too, when we've been betting on the same games, they've usually done pretty well. So I haven't really made up ground in like at all.
So you're just gonna copy my picks? No, I'm just kidding. So I will mention, by the way, that we come up with our picks like completely on our own, and then we just convene right before we record. Like, hey, what do you have this week? So there's no like copying picks or nothing like that. We just kind of think the same sometimes, Yeah. And I know we do have two picks this week that we have the same. Matt, I think we can talk about those first because we're putting, I guess, a similar amount of money. I know you're putting a little bit more on one, and I'm putting a little bit more on the other. But let's talk about this first one. You have said it's your lock of the week. Colts minus 2.5. Give me the good word, bro.
Well, really, it just comes down to the Panthers are not good. Now, they did win their first game of the season, and I bet against them last week. But the Panthers are not a good team, right? We've established this. The Colts offense is pretty legit, and even though Gardner Minshew is kind of up and down, they're still pretty solid. They've had some bad calls kind of go against them, but you watch them play and you're like, hey, this team's good. Like they're a solid, maybe not good, but they're average. So I think this is a pretty safe one. And just if you've watched the way that the Colts have played, like they played the Browns really close. The Niners lost to the Browns. The Seahawks just barely beat the Browns. The Browns are a good team. They played them very close. And then last week they were in a close game as well. They're just consistently in close games, and I think this is one where they kind of get like, okay, like a big sigh of relief and an easy victory against the Panthers.
I think the line is pretty easy as well because they kind of got shellacked last week against the Saints. So the line is probably not as high as it should be. You're giving me, less than a field goal for the Colts to beat the Panthers, who, are in firm number one pick contention. I guess the Bears are by definition, but give me the Colts minus 2.5 there. That's a pretty easy one. And then I know the other one that we both agree on, me to more of an extent, Rams money line. Matt, can you tell me any reason why the Packers should be favored in this game?
Well, because the Rams are like, they'll play good, but they can't score in the red zone, and then they will just have like breakdowns. But the Rams team hasn't really been that bad. Like, if you look at their losses, like they lost to the Steelers, it was a weird loss. They lost to the Bengals, and they just didn't really play that good, but it was like kind of a close game. Like they just haven't been they haven't been bad. They've been a solid team. They're in contention to make a wild card spot, and they were a team. And Mike, I told you this before the year started, and like right off the bat, I was like, hey dude, I think that the Rams are gonna be a lot better. They beat the Seahawks week 1, and you're like, okay, I can kind of buy into it somewhat. Are they some amazing team? No. They have some stuff to figure out. Yes, Matthew Stafford is now banged up, but it seems like he's going to play. As we know, Matthew Stafford is like the Iron Man of quarterbacks. He'll just be injured and have still go and play and perform normally.
For better or worse, yeah, he'll play better for better or worse, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, when I'm looking at them, it's just like they should win this game. The Packers don't look good. The Packers don't look good at all. The Rams, if the Rams could just produce touchdowns and stop settling for field goals, they would probably have 2 more wins. So that's the real reason why they're probably not favorites, just because like you look at it and you're like, okay, well they're a little bit below 500, but they're a better team. They're a much better team. Puka and Cup, they've been good. So it's like I don't know. I like the Rams a lot in this one too, and I think that like we're looking at it in this one. It's just like I don't know, dude. The Packers like what do the Packers show you that like they're good? They haven't shown us that at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, the only reason I guess you could favor the Packers is because this game is in Lambeau. And as somebody who lives in Illinois, I could tell you it started to snow here already. We had snow on Halloween for the first day. So I guess maybe you're thinking, warm weather LA team against the cold Green Bay Packers, but that's assuming the Packers are good, man. Like their offense is Jordan Love looks bad, like straight up dookie. And their defense isn't good enough to overcompensate that. They're not like the Steelers where you could say, oh, well, their defense is so good. Like, who cares if Kenny Pickett, right? No, that's not the case. So I don't know why the Packers would be favored in this game unless Vegas really thinks the Matthew Stafford thumb injury is a thing. I'm throwing on Rams money line. I'm going to put $300 on there, plus 140 odds. I think last week I did really good with putting a big money on an underdog with the Bengals. That one worked out for me big time. So I'm gonna run it back with the Rams this week. I think that they're definitely going to beat the Packers.
Yeah, dude. And so you put 300 on Rams money line. You put 200 on Colts minus 2.5. For me, I'm going 150 on Rams money line and 300 on Colts. So similar numbers, a little bit different, but like these are the two that I feel. Yeah, we're feeling pretty good about this one. So, or both of these games. So I'm excited. I think the Rams have been interesting because like they win one, they lose one. They're like a classic 500 team, and they were talked about as a team that was going to be like get like the first pick in the draft. So it's like, yeah, guys, they're a little bit more closer to like an average NFL team. They got the studs and duds roster, but it looks like this week is probably a week where they'll be able to pull out a win. At least I think so.
All right, and then my next pick, I'm going with another underdog money line. I'm going with the Commanders money line. I'm putting $250 on it. Same odds, plus 140. Listen, Matt, I know his pocket presence isn't great, but I've liked what I've seen from Sam Howell. He can sling the rock, right? And I understand that they just traded away Montez Sweat and Chase Young. I understand that their defensive line is depleted, but going against the Patriots, they're not good either, right? So I think Sam Howell can low-key slice up the Patriots defense. Now I understand that Bill Belichick typically feasts on young quarterbacks, and I get that, but I don't know if the Patriots have the firepower to get in a shootout here. I don't know if their defense is good enough to stop Washington and all their good receivers. So, and Eric Bieniemy has seen Bill Belichick multiple times. So I think I like the Commanders' money line here. The Patriots aren't a team that I would favor by too much. Again, Sam Howell looked really good against the Eagles last week. I know their secondary isn't great, but he did look really good. Give me the Commanders' money line. I'm going to put $250 on it, and for plus 140 odds, I think this is going to be a big, big booster for me this week.
So this was probably the only bet, like, I have a pretty deep slate, but this was like the next one on my list where I was like, do I do it? I'm not quite sure. And I decided not to, but I was thinking the same thing. The only reason I'm a little hesitant is just that Sam Howell has been really up and down, and I feel like this Patriots matchup is not the best for him. You also trade guys away. Your locker room's kind of messed up. The Commanders aren't in a good spot, And not to say that the Patriots are. The Patriots aren't either, but they're at home, and I just feel like the Patriots are going to win this one, but I think it's just going to be ugly. Like I don't think Sam Howell's going to have the best day. And I also just feel like I don't know, man. Like I was just a little hesitant, but I get where you're coming from, and I had the same thought process, and I initially had it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to bet Commanders, and I was like, I don't think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to fall short. I think we're going to see a Bill Belichick defense that looks pretty decent. And honestly, the Patriots offense has looked better. It looked not like it's good, but it looked like it was the worst defense in the NFL early on. So, the worst offense in the NFL early on. So it looks a little bit better. Where I'm like, all right, I think they're gonna pull a victory against this one against just like a rattled Commanders team. And I don't want to bet that one just because I feel like all the momentum for the Commanders season is just like gone right now, and this is the first game we see that. So not too excited to watch the Commanders for the rest of the season, even though they were kind of intriguing early on in the year. And I agree about Sam Howell, but this team Sam Howell's been best against is the Eagles, and he already played them twice, and they lost both those games.
True. To no fault of his own, I will say. I mean, when you throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, like, you should win. You should win that game, But, yeah, that leads me to my last bet, and going with an actual good quarterback, for the first one in this betting slip that I got. Bengals minus 2.5 against the Buffalo Bills. Sunday Night Football in Cincinnati. I think the Bengals are back They had a rough start to the year. I think the Rams game was when they kind of turned it a little bit. They looked decent against Seattle, but the last 2 weeks they have been really, really good, especially against Arizona. I think it was 3 weeks ago. Joe Burrow's back. The offense is back. The defense is making plays. And the Bills, I don't want to call them frauds because I do think that they're a good team, but I don't think the Bills are to be held to as high of a standard as I think a lot of people hold them to, right? The Bengals are really good. You're giving me a field goal in Paycor Stadium. Bengals need to recover from that slow start they had at the beginning of the year. I think they're going to be lights out. They destroyed the Bengals. They destroyed the Bills last year in the playoffs, and I don't know. I think that we're going to see another Bengals win.
This is my least favorite one of all your bets. I don't think it's like awful. I was thinking about betting the Bills and I was like, actually I don't want to bet the Bills on this one. Definitely not. So it's hard, dude, because the Bengals have kind of had the Bills' numbers. I feel like. Do you feel the same way? Because that's how I've kind of felt. Like, obviously last year in the playoffs is the big one, but it just feels like they're a good matchup for the Bills. The Bills also are like, people always want to blame it on Josh Allen. Oh, Josh Allen didn't do that. I mean, it's not a Josh Allen problem. Josh Allen's been fantastic this year. He's been amazing. But the Bills have not been a good team. The Bills have kind of sucked this year outside of basically like the Allen to Diggs combo. And James Cook makes a couple nice plays every once in a while. But their defense hasn't been good. It's been pretty bad lately. They did win against the Bucs. They're coming off, they have a long week here. So there's things I like about the Bills, but they're just way too inconsistent of a team to be like, oh yeah, they're good. Now, about the Bengals.
Let me tell you this. If Chris Godwin turns around on that Hail Mary, we're having a different conversation about the Bills right now. I mean, we are. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was a big play, I think, that was left on the table for the Buccaneers at the end of that game.
That's true, but also, I don't know. When I look at it, I mean, the Bills completely controlled the game, though. We do also have to take account of that, just like from the eyeball test, from how they looked. Now, the only other thing is that when I look at this one, you talked about the Bengals being back, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. Like, they're back. They look normal. They're a team. They started out slow last year, too. They're fine. Now, is their offensive line kind of sus? Did they lose a little bit on defense? Yeah, but they're still going to be good. They can run the football against the Bills, which they probably will be able to. They'll probably win this game. But it's just kind of it's a toss-up, dude. It's two good teams on Sunday Night Football. So I could see Allen having a 350-yard, 3-4 touchdown game where they end up winning it. And it's like, yeah, I mean, we could have seen that coming from Josh Allen. So it's just one that I wouldn't want to touch just because I think it's a good game. It's a really good game. It should be tight. It's two good teams. Well, two pretty good teams that have kind of been flawed early on in the season. So I don't love it either way. So I say all this to you, okay, don't bet on two good teams playing each other. Now my first bet I'll bring up is a good team playing another good team. And it's the Dolphins against the Chiefs. We got the Germany game. I am betting the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins, obviously outside of quarterback, but you look at every kind of part of these teams. Offense, the Dolphins have a better offense. Defense, the Dolphins have a better defense, especially with Jalen Ramsey back. And coaching, Dolphins have a better coaching staff. Not to say that the Chiefs isn't good, but it is a hot take. But you look at it and you go, okay, you have Mike McDaniel. Yeah, he might not be as good as Andy Reid. He doesn't have the resume of Andy Reid, but are we going to act like he's been that far off? Mike McDaniel has been amazing. And then you go, okay, well, who's coaching their defense? Oh, it's Vic Fangio, probably the most consistent defensive coordinator over the last 20 years. So, yeah, they do have a better coaching staff. So you look at it and you're like, okay, everything's better except for the quarterback. All right, well, we've seen that when Tua has all pros around him, he actually looks pretty good. So I like the Dolphins in this one. I think this is kind of one where probably a lot of people are like, yeah, the Dolphins, they have to play a real team. They got to do this. I think they're better right now, and I think the Chiefs made a big mistake by not tapping into the wide receiver market at the trade deadline. Doesn't seem like there was really much available, but like their offense.
Well, the Lions got Donovan Peoples-Jones for like a sixth. I mean, would he not be wide receiver one on the Chiefs right now?
Well, that's the thing, dude. It's like the Chiefs have flaws. The Chiefs are not like some perfect team, and they have some injuries in their defense. Like I believe, is it Nick Bolton? He's out. I want to say he's on IR. They have. Yeah, so it's like, dude, he's a huge loss. If the Dolphins might be able to run the football pretty well on them, if they're going to do that, they're going to carve them up. And the Chiefs' offense hasn't really been that crazy this year, outside of smoking teams that just straight up suck. So I think the Dolphins are a better football team than the Chiefs, and I'm going to put $100 on them this week. So yeah, it's kind of like a hot take, but I feel like it's, if you really look at like the rosters and stuff, it's like, well, yeah, that's probably accurate. And I was kind of thinking about it the other day, and I was like, the Dolphins are a better team in the AFC. And people don't want to say it. It's like one of those things where it's like, if you're early on it, you could be early on it. It's like, yeah, well, the Chiefs have been good for the last 5 years, like really good, like way better for the last 5 years. But we're talking about this year. We're talking about present day, and you go, damn, this Dolphins team's pretty legit. So I like the Dolphins a lot. Honestly, the Dolphins might be the best team in the AFC, and I think some people like kind of flirt with that, like maybe they are, maybe they aren't. They just got Jalen Ramsey back, bro. Like that is massive for this team.
He looked like Deion Sanders. You see that interception? He looked like Deion Sanders. I thought he was about to start high stepping on the sidelines after he picked that shit off. That was crazy. I'm just surprised that all this propaganda for the Dolphins is coming out of your mouth. The biggest Tua hater I've ever met. We've gone to blows over how good Tua is, because I love Tua, and I've loved Tua for years. Like, I'm an Alabama fan, and you've just been spewing all this bullshit about Tua, and all of a sudden they win a few games and he's the best, or they're the best team in the AFC. I think that's a bit ironic, man.
Well, it's not because of Tua. It's you give Tua, Jalen Waddle, and Tyreek Hill, and one of the best rushing offenses, and a good defense and a well-coached team. Like, yeah, it should work, bro. That's what we've seen. I mean, I think the Tua conversation has kind of changed at this point, where it's like, all right, guys, he's not like, superstar number 1 overall pick. It's like, no, he's good, he's solid, right? Like, it's you put good things around him, he should play good, as what should happen to almost every single quarterback. Not trying to take anything away from his
there it is. There it is. There's the Tua hate right there.
But I don't really think it's Tua hate. It's just like, yeah, he's in a good situation. He should succeed, and he is. So props him for doing that. But I feel like no one's ever like freaking out about Tua as much as they were. It used to be like Tua sucks. Either Tua's amazing, he's a top 5, top 10 quarterback. That's what people talk about him like, or he's horrible. And it's like, okay, guys,
he might be top 10. He might honestly be top 10, to be honest with you.
This year he has been.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's hard.
Last year, I don't know. He's kind of up and down last year, but it's like for fair reason, right? So that's my first underdog. Now we both had the Rams money line as well, but so I have 3 underdogs this week. My last one is the Buccaneers. I'm putting 150 on the Bucs, 124. Now the Bucs have been one of those teams that's just like, they're kind of meh. They might win the South. I feel like they're going to play the Texans. The Texans, we were all getting kind of excited about the Texans. The Texans are still they're one of those teams that, like, they're going to get so much hype next season. We always see this.
They're going to be like the Lions next year. Yeah.
Yep. They're going to get so much hype next season. The Texans are going to come. They're going to knock off the Jaguars. They're not going to do it next year either. It's going to be the year after. They're going to keep building around, and it's going to be a couple years from now. But I love what they're building. But the Buccaneers are still a better football team than them. When the Buccaneers have been the better football team, I feel really confident about them. I'm confused why they don't have the advantage in this one, so I'm taking Bucks, 150 on the Bucks money line right there. So it's 124 odds, so it's a little bit extra profit in that one. But what do you think? You like the Bucks in this one? You like the Texans? What are your thoughts?
This is a game that I wouldn't touch, just because Baker started off the year hot, and he's been really bad the last few weeks. Like, he did not look good against Buffalo. He did not look good against Detroit. He didn't look good against Atlanta really either. So he's had 3 kind of not so good weeks in a row, and maybe I'm thinking, okay, maybe the beginning of the season was just fluky a little bit. Neither of these teams, you tell me all the time, you're like, don't bet on 2 bad teams. In my opinion, these are 2 non-playoff teams, and I don't see an advantage. Like, not one team has a great home field advantage. There's not a much better quarterback. There's not a much better defense. So to me, this is just like a pure coin flip on who wins. Now, if I would take the bet, obviously the Buccaneers money line as the underdogs is better odds. So you're looking at a better profit. So if I was forced to bet, I would probably take Bucs money line. But truthfully, this is not a game that I feel very confident in, because I don't put a lot of faith into Baker Mayfield. And C.J. Stroud obviously is probably a little bit better, but the team around him is not much better. So I don't know. I probably wouldn't touch this game, but I don't hate that you're taking Bucs money line.
Yeah, no, I feel like that makes a lot of sense, and that's why I'm not putting a ton on this one. So I have 2 more games, 150 on each. I'll do the Seahawks first. Not taking the Seahawks money line, but I'm taking the Seahawks +6. That seems extraordinarily high for a Seahawks team that's been really good. Honestly, I probably should put more on this one. Like, the Ravens are maybe the most inconsistent team in the entire NFL. And it's not a per game basis. It's a per quarter basis, dude. They fall apart at the end of games. And the Seahawks, And Pete Carroll specifically, outside of the Super Bowl, of course, but Pete Carroll, his teams are pretty good at like, all right, let's adjust and let's somehow we're in this game where we're really just getting killed, but it's a 2-point game, and then we end up winning the game. That we just saw them do that last week, where it's like they didn't look good. Geno Smith didn't look good all game, and they ended up pulling out a win against the Browns. They're 6 points. You get 6 points on the Seahawks. Yeah, I think the Ravens are gonna win, but the Ravens might not even cover 6 points against horrible teams because somehow they like play down and they fall apart, and then all of a sudden it's like the Ravens won by a field goal, but they were up by 14 points at one point in this game. So this has a backdoor cover for the Seahawks on 6 points. Like I feel that like it's definitely gonna happen. So I like this one a lot. Honestly, I should probably change my numbers because like some of these like I don't know, like the Bucks. Like, do I love? Honestly, I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna take the Bucks. I'm gonna put 100 on the Bucks. I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna put 200 on the Seahawks. So I'm making that adjustment mid-show just because I'm talking myself more into the Seahawks +6. But Mike, they're your guys.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you didn't take this week.
So, well, first of all, I wouldn't bet on the Seahawks if it was plus 100. Like, I just don't bet on the Seahawks. I just refuse. After week 1, I was so confident in saying Seahawks -5, and they got shellacked by the Rams. I convinced I jinxed them, right? But the reason that I wouldn't take the Seahawks to cover in this game is for 2 reasons. A, you want to talk about, the Ravens are good per quarter. That's what Geno Smith is. Geno Smith looked like the best player on planet Earth in the first quarter against the Browns. Then for 3 quarters, he looked terrible. And he kind of got lucky because the defense, and he did have a good last drive. He did make some nice completions, but the touchdown really was all Jackson Smith-Njigba. Geno Smith has been very inconsistent on a quarter-by-quarter basis this year, right? Additionally, the biggest reason that I'm not taking the Seahawks to cover in this game is because I think NFC teams who don't see Lamar have a really, really hard time game planning for Lamar. We saw it a few weeks ago with the Lions. The Lions are either on par with the Seahawks or a little bit better of a team. I think we can agree. They're like the same tier, right? The Lions and the Seahawks, Seahawks beat them early in the year, right? They're on the same tier. The Lions looked like a junior varsity team against the Ravens because Lamar Jackson, they had no answer for Lamar Jackson. And I think when you don't go against Lamar, you don't know what to do. Like he's a weapon unlike anybody else in the NFL. And I just think our defense is going to have a really hard time stopping Lamar. Granted, our defense has been good, right? The Seahawks defense, they rank out pretty well this year. They're much improved from last year. But it's just Lamar Jackson is such a weapon, and the Seahawks have no frame of reference, right? They have no, like, the last time they played each other was like 4 years ago. Both teams are completely different. So it's just so hard. The game's also in Baltimore, and I don't know. You have to go all the way from Seattle, Washington, Seattle, to all the way to Baltimore, and it's like, I don't know, dude. That's a long plane trip. That's a really dangerous quarterback. It's a good defense. I don't know. I don't love this game. I wouldn't take it if I were you, to be honest with you. Now, if the Seahawks win, I'll be jumping for joy, obviously, but I don't know. This is a game that screams to me like Ravens domination, to be honest.
Yeah. No, that's fair, but that's just kind of where I'm thinking. Where it's just if the Ravens hadn't showed all season they were so inconsistent, I would feel more like that. Where it's like, okay, we just saw another NFC team, and I think that's a good point when you talk about Lamar too, because you look at Lamar against NFC teams, and it's like ridiculous how good he's been, and that's probably a lot of it too. Like when you look at the game plan, you don't really see Lamar much, you don't really know what to expect. So I like that a lot that you bring that up, but I'm still taking it.
There's a reason like the Steelers beat him this year, right? Because the Steelers, they see him twice a year every year. Like they kind of, when you see him, multiple times a year, you kind of get a feel for him. You know how to beat him. You know what works. You've gone against him. You know his tendencies, right? The Seahawks haven't. I think the last time they played was like 2019. So it's been like 3-4 years, right? And it's like, dude, you don't have a fucking like notebook of Lamar Jackson in the back of Pete Carroll's office, like just ready to whip out every 4 years. It's like, no. It's like going up against a guy for the first time almost. So it's just really hard in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing. The reason that the Steelers beat the Ravens was not because of that, though. That's because they dropped 8 passes.
Fair. Maybe that was the game plan the Steelers had. They just said let Lamar throw, not because he can't, just because his receivers can't catch. Maybe that was the game plan.
Yeah, just leave Zay Flowers wide open down the field. He'll fall over his own feet.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, Mike Tomlin's a genius, bro. They say Mike Tomlin's not a Hall of Famer. The 9-8 God knows what he's doing. All right.
Last team. Browns -8. They're playing the Cardinals. Cardinals suck. Now PJ Walker hasn't been good. Maybe Deshaun Watson's back. We'll see. I don't even know what to say at that point. I taking it's who is it starting for the Cardinals? Clayton Tune, right?
Clayton Tune, yep.
Yeah, he's going against the Browns defense. That's ridiculous. He's going up against Myles Garrett. Browns defense is going to take control of this game. The Cardinals, now, Josh Dobbs wasn't good, but he also wasn't awful. The likelihood that Clayton Tune goes out there and is just terrible is pretty high, and the Browns defense is legit. I think they're going to rattle him. I think they're just going to win because they just control the line of scrimmage on both sides, and that's why we've seen the Cardinals lose basically all season long. I mean, they have one win. They haven't looked like awful in some aspects where they were like kind of expected to be like clearly the worst team, but no Kyler Murray. It's gonna be a killing. So I'm going -8 for the Browns. I'm putting 150 on that one. So that's my final bet. That one I don't know. That one just was like okay, yeah, that's
the Browns
probably
are a
gonna
good
happen.
team. They're a good team, dude. Like they have a good offensive line. They have pretty good receivers. David Njoku's a good tight end. They have a really good defensive line with that guy Myles Garrett. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Matt. He's like the best defender in the NFL today. They're a good team, bro. They should annihilate the Cardinals. They really should. If they want to make the playoffs, these are teams you got to just mow down. This is like an extra bye week. It should be for the Browns, right? So -8, it's high, but come on, it should cash. So we're gonna go straight to the parlays because you guys got to get in on this action. I got a banger parlay for you. Last week, my parlay included Chiefs money line, so thank you, Patrick Mahomes. Really appreciate that, dog. Anyway, this parlay, I have a new slip for you. It's plus 16-10 odds. Pretty good, right? I got Chiefs money line. Mahomes got me. I got Vegas money line. Now you might be thinking, what? Interim coaches win their first games. Fact check me on that. Texans -2.5. I'm taking Philadelphia Eagles money line, and I'm taking the Chargers -3. Again, a loaded slip. I think a few of these are absolute locks. And a few of these are kind of 50-50, but for plus 1,600 odds, $50 wins me about $800. I can't say I hate it, Matt, to be honest with you.
It's okay. It's 5 teams, right?
Yes.
It's just a lot, dude. Like mine's like not that far off on my odds. Mine's 905, and it's 3 teams. It's the Colts, which we basically said we think is the lock. The Rams money line, which we're like, all right, this is pretty good. I think that's the least likely one to hit in this. And then also the Dolphins. So I have 3 teams. I told you I'm really high on the Dolphins this week. The Rams and the Colts, like, I feel pretty confident about this one. It's only 3 teams. It's not that crazy. And 905 odds for something like that where you're like, okay, we feel really good about these 3. So I don't know. Something's banging outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's probably my parlay. It's probably someone's hearing it. They're banging on the parlay as well. So overall,
they're withdrawing their money from the ATM so they could put it all on Matt's parlay right there.
Yeah, because I think that's a fire parlay. Yours is solid too. Chargers are a classic team to win that game by 2 points as everything else hits and you're like, I'm about to make so much money on this, and then it doesn't hit. So
I know
I like
Chargers
it.
are on my no bet list. This would get them back on there. I'm not gonna lie. Like this is like their trial period to have me bet on them again since they absolutely bent me over a few weeks ago when I bet on them. So if they don't cash this one, then they're probably gonna be they're gonna go on the suspended list for the rest of the year. I think they're gonna get caught failing a drug test or something and be on my IR for the rest of the year. So
this is a classic why you don't bet on the Chargers, because they're gonna win the game by 2 points. I'm telling you right now.
for sure. But yeah, so those are our picks. Those are our parlays for this week. As always, we have the spreadsheet in the link in the description below. Matt, thank you for joining me. I hope we have another good week, and let's make some more money this week, dude. Huh? Let's make some more money. Let's get back in the green. So, all right, I will talk to you later. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all you guys later. Peace out.